Tim did pop in a little early, so I'm stoked to bring him up. Ladies and gentlemen, first time on the show, again, editor of The Sociable, contributor to Truth Talk, Tim Hinchcliffe. How's it going, man?
Doing all right, Steve. How you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Yeah, I just going through a spout of food poisoning from Friday, so but seem to be doing a little bit better today.
That's good, and thank you for I guess toughing it out.
Yeah.
I don't even know how that works, but appreciate the hell out of you. Uh, I kind of want to do this whole thing in reverse order now, where we usually do the dementia recall playlist thing at the end of the conversation. I'm curious, Tim, before we get back into even this article, any further discussion, because I think you may be familiar with the way the game works, the Dementia Memory Recall playlist game. If you had to pick a song or a couple of songs, first couple that pop into your head, if you're in the old journalist home and you have a case of the Joe Bidens, what is a couple of pieces of music that you think would help pull you back into some memory, some lucidity, a little bit more cognitive function?
Well, the first one said what comes to mind was Mr. Tambourine Man, Bob Dylan. So that's the first one.
In the Bob Dylan version, not the Byrds version?
No, not the Byrds, no. Bob Dylan version. And then I think Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. I think that could snap me out of it.
Any particular part in the ninth that, like?
I think it's the third movement. Is that the one? I mean, it goes and then it goes into Ode to Joy and all that. Yeah, so a little bit later on.
Hell yeah. Excellent. Good shit.
Yeah, I mean, I got into Beethoven when I was in university. I went in Bellingham, Washington, Western Washington University. There's a lot of mushrooms up there. And so
yes, sir.
Eat some of those, and then walking around campus, and Beethoven is what got me back on track.
Bellingham is that's the Microsoft compound, right? Like in Gatesville, like right outside of Bellingham.
I think is it Bellingham or is it? There's Redmond. There might be. I haven't been there in a long time. I've been in Colombia in South America for the past 9 years. I can't remember now.
Nice. How's the cocaine down there?
It was, well, I haven't tried it in almost 10 years, but it was.
Lucky with you, man.
No, it's good.
I would hope it would.
But yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, well, shit, dude. So first of all, what do you think about this shit where they've suddenly found a magic off-grid coronavirus lab in Wuhan that was conducting gain-of-function research and experiments on coronavirus right before we blamed everything on the Wuhan Institute of Virology for the ensuing 3 years?
Well, I mean, why now? Why is that coming out now? And shit, man, I really don't know. It seems like, I mean, yeah, just deflecting blame from one thing to another. So like before they were saying, what was the one that was Fort Detrick for a bit? They're saying that something might have came out of there a few years ago. And then, and then it was natural. And then it was, okay, maybe a lab, and maybe this other lab. And then who's actually responsible? Is it the Chinese? Is it the Americans funding it? It's just a lot of noise in the channel, you know? So it just this new revelation or this information, I really don't know what to think of it. It's fresh to me.
Yeah, no, this is the first time I'm really looking at it too. Let's see. We can take a little bit more look at what the article's saying, because I'm going into all of this cold. Not gonna lie. I had very, very little time to prep for the show today, but that's all right, because there's people here and plenty to talk about. And I mean, I don't know if I've demonstrated anything at all over the last 5 years. It's that I would prefer to just wing it than come in overly prepared. Okay, so someone or a group of people in the lab, again, unspecified, really unverified lab. We're using modern tools of what is called reverse genetics to make a virus from scratch, literally from bottles of chemicals on a shelf. This is a weird little narrative, Tim, because now they're saying you can make a homemade bioweapon in your kitchen. That's
I mean, so the whole coming from bats or whatever, like that's kind of saying that doesn't matter at all. Like not even like taking it from a bat and then amplifying, manipulating it in a lab. No, just creating it from scratch, as you say. Yeah.
He said the analysis of the samples by the lab in Wuhan would have been done at shocking low-level biosafety levels, meaning the dangerous pathogen could have contaminated the lab. Our findings on a MERS virus show that unpublished gain-of-function research on deadly coronaviruses was being conducted. It also documents significant contamination of the sequencing equipment, reagents, and facilities at low biosafety level. Okay. Scientists said the bat coronavirus appears to be closely related to those published by Shi Zhengli, scientist at the heart of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, known as Batwoman. Dr. K said MERS and SARS are deadly cousins of each other, but not in any sense viral twins, meaning that it couldn't have sparked the COVID pandemic. Okay, so now they're saying it wasn't. So the headline was that it was, and then you get into the article, and now they're saying it wasn't. So now they're saying that, yes, there was being completely deadly gain-of-function research being done. It was being done in an off-book illegal lab in Wuhan. That it is the exact same gain-of-function that showed up in COVID, but it totally wasn't what we just said it was. Anyway, hope you're horrified. Here's a commercial from Pfizer.
This it reminds me of well, first of all, like what is the point of doing this this kind of research? So is it really for a pandemic preparedness kind of situation, public health thing, or is it for bioweapons? It reminds me so much of, I don't remember which Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise. I think it might have been the second one, where that was the entire plot, was they create a virus in order to sell the solution, the vaccine. It was like Chimera Bellerophon or something. That was the name of the disease and the antidote that they had. I think it was Mission Impossible 2. I'm not sure. But yeah, it just seems like a Hollywood movie playing out.
The whole thing, man. The whole thing. How did they end this weird little shit? Let's find out. Let's see. Biologist Steve Massey warned the accidental release such a virus would have unpredictable and potentially catastrophic consequences. Okay. Described the sample as a souped up bat coronavirus because he likes puns, I guess. MERS-like characteristics. The link to the Wuhan Institute of Virology is likely but not proven. Experts claim the WIV endangered the world by carrying out gain-of-function experiments to engineer chimeric viruses, which was a complete and total conspiracy theory even as early as a year ago now. Dr. Richard Embright claimed the study shows the lab was performing enhanced potential pandemic pathogens research. That is a lot of alliteration there. The biosafety expert told The Sun Online it highlights how the lab had unpublished infectious clones from its research on bat coronaviruses, adding to suspicions around its work. Described the findings of the study as sound and important because safe and effective is overblown. In his Substack, he explained the database of coronaviruses at the Wuhan Institute was taken offline in the fall of 2019, so we can't confirm that the coronavirus BAC clone lurking behind a rice genome is not one of theirs. Oh, that's neat. Looks as if the exact research many hypothesize led to the creation of SARS-CoV-2. Now they're admitting this is insane to me. All of the different things that they're just casually letting out in this, that were all conspiracy theories, that were all like, you can lose your entire fucking livelihood, kid, if you talk about this. These are the people that the establishment let conduct this study that they're now just printing in, the Sun Online for the US version. Yeah, they had a whole ass database of all of the different coronaviruses, even the ones that they were gain of functioning. They're talking about the SARS-CoV-2 that they say, everybody got, led to the creation of it. So, I mean, that's a flat out admission that this was, whatever you want to think about viruses or terrain theory or germ theory, if there's somebody that's creating a bioweapon in a lab, then that's a bioweapon. And it's going to behave based on what the spike proteins were told to do, or what the lipid nanoparticles were told to do. And it's not going to behave like any other organic thing. So wild. Rather than being disclosed, the bat coronavirus has been uncovered by studies. Why haven't WIV shared their database with the world? Is this one of their coronaviruses? What other unreported coronaviruses existed in Wuhan labs in 2019? I mean, these are fair questions. And when we were asking them, we got called Nazis.
Yeah.
Nazis.
And still, in this article, are they saying anything about where the funding came from? Did they mention anything about
no,
the U.S. or EcoHealth Alliance or even the Pentagon or anything like that? No.
Not a word, not even a hint of speculation as to how these experiments even got set up in the first place. I mean, I guess if they're telling you that you can create effectively a chimeric MERS-like virus in your kitchen, then this is something that I'll tell you what, they'll probably come back and say that the entire lab was funded through purchases made by Bitcoin.
They'll get the regulators on them.
They probably they'll find a way to wrap up all of their little psyops and be like, the only way that we can ensure that you don't get a man-made manipulated chimeric virus pandemic is by issuing central bank digital currency.
CBDC, digital ID. That's the way forward. That's how you're going to end pandemics. That's how you're going to end problems with cybersecurity. That's how you're going to fix the climate in the world.
It stops human trafficking, Tim.
Right.
Does, especially if you're the UN and you make all sex and drugs and vice crimes legal.
That's right. Yeah, just go to Haiti. Yeah.
Right. I do think it's kind of interesting, though, the angle that if you're going to usher in a currency that is surveillance based, you know what I mean? Then you kind of have to eliminate the side hustle that you've always had as federal governments, state and local governments, in facilitating vice. Because if people wanted to shut this shit down, they could. They could. If you wanted to stop prostitution, or at least make it so that it was really difficult to engage in, you could. You do the same with drugs. You do the same with child sex trafficking. The amount of energy that the federal government put into throwing, what's his name? Douglas Mackey, Ricky Vaughn, Twitter troll, for putting out a meme. They gave that dude 10 years. They investigated the Uhuru group, right? The black socialist group. that they just arrested that dude Amari or Amali, Yoshida, giving that guy 5 years, and a couple of his friends like 5 years, trying to give him 5 years for Russian propaganda, for essentially propaganda crimes. The amount of resources that went into that, the amount of money and resources that go into your average nightly propaganda broadcast on any given cable network or standard news network. But no, they can't.
No, they just enough to kind of try to publicly show you're doing something a little bit to stop whatever thing, but at the same time you're feeding it, funding it, and providing everything to make it happen. But just publicly showing, hey, look, we're doing something, right?
Jesus Christ, man, that's wild though. That is. I have some psychedelic related stuff. And but before we get into that, and I definitely want to know, I want you to talk about anything that you've been working on. If there's anything in particular you'd like us to highlight or pull up or get to, thing like that, let me know for sure.
Sure.
But this crazy shit with Sandy from the Gram, where she went on MSNBC over the weekend on Jen Psaki's show, talking about the government needs to put an end to media outlets I don't like.
Oh yeah.
Is just a whole new level of open fascism that is a little bit concerning. And look, I apologize for the voice that we're all about to have to suffer through for the next 23 seconds.
Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't. And when you look at what Tucker Carlson and some of these other folks on Fox do, it is very, very clearly incitement of violence. Very clearly incitement of violence. And that is the line that I think we have to be willing to contend with. Federal regulation in terms of what's allowed on air and what isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. Sandy would like the government to have the power to take away the ability for, I mean, last time I checked, the most popular broadcaster on cable to speak, because she doesn't like what he's saying.
Yeah, I don't know. It's, think about like how Elon Musk wants, Twitter to be free speech and everything like that, but he doesn't want, still not letting Alex Jones on there because of something said about Sandy Hook. So that's something, and he even went on, with the BBC guy and said, is that something that's, hateful, or is that something that you don't like? But now this is of course Sandy being the government. Yeah, that's not something that our Constitution was set up to be. And I don't know when, politically, I'm neutral, kind of right in the center, independent. I grew up, my freshman year in university was the start of the Iraq War. So I was told I hated everything Republican, conservative, war. And then, but even in the last few years or so, I looked at the left too, Democrats, and it was like, when did all this authoritarianism, fascism, big brother stuff come in, and corporatism, and it blows my mind. Like, so just the whole, politically, I'm right in the middle, because now, like, it's taken me a while to realize that I don't like really much either side.
Yeah, I guess maybe we could talk about that for a little bit, since you haven't been on the show before. How did you kind of like get into writing about what you write about at the Sociable and get hooked up with the Truth Talk people? Because that's a pretty far cry from, like, George Bush is a Geraldo and I don't like him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, so, man, when I started writing for the Sociables back in 2015, and I was writing about startups and business and stuff that I wasn't really, and somewhat about artificial intelligence and mythology, like drawing parallels to like the creation myths and what happened there. But it really was. And then I also was researching DARPA and IARPA to see where technology was being developed. And then, so I was researching where it was developed, where Congress and stuff wanted to legislate, and then what companies wanted to do with it, and policies and stuff. But it really wasn't until, 2020, when after during pandemic, and then once I got wind of the Great Reset, then that really latched on to that. But it was the whole talk of I saw coming the whole vaccine passports thing. Saw that coming a mile away, and I was warning about it, like, oh shit, this is coming, and then it's going to be tied to this, digital ID thing, and it's going to be tied to this, and then look how they're restricting everything in society. And so it was right around that time. So it was one of these articles I did on vaccine passports threaten fundamental human rights, or whatever. I think that was the title of this article, and that got the attention of Seek for Truth over at Truth Talk, and he reached out to me on Twitter, and we started talking, and that's when he just started. Like, he didn't have any kind of following at the time, but then he just blew up, and then asked me to join over there. And so it was 2020 is when all of a sudden, like, I was writing about all these different things, kind of mismatched about tech and society, but then it all kind of came together during COVID, because you could just see how all these different things of where this technology here, and then the policies they want here, and the public-private partnerships they want to do, it all kind of converged into one thing. And so that's really what woke me up, because I could see it in real time, or I saw it ahead of time and then see it play out. Because at the beginning too, like when I was writing things, I was getting shit talked and called conspiracy theorist, and got a rooster crowing over here, and what else? Closeted anti-vaxxer. I was called on Reddit, and that was a fun one.
Right.
Yeah, so it took a lot. Putting myself. It was the first time really I put myself out there. For reputation-wise and stuff like that, really staked my reputation on that, and then it turned out to be true. Yeah.
Yeah, boy, did it. And by the way, dude, I have no problem with I kind of get a kick out of here, the rooster back there. I was doing shows up in Humboldt County for a while, and every time it would rain, the chickens would come under the deck in the house, and it would be like directly underneath where I was sitting to broadcast, and they would just cluck, squawk, freak out the entire fucking time.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, okay.
Well, I'm here in the mountainside outside of Medellin, Colombia, and these are the neighbors' chicks. Like, there's one rooster, there's 3 hens, and then all the little baby chicks. Every day, like, they start off with 11 or so, and every day there's 1 or 2 fewer. There's hawks, there's dogs. It's interesting to watch as I'm trying to write. Yeah.
Oh, I bet, dude. I bet it's fun as shit. Yeah. I'm not too many chickens in Vegas. Plenty of chicken heads. No, not too many chickens. Dude, I can't. I'm kind of head spun over just how easy it's become for these Congress critters to let it all out like that, because we used to have politicians that at least tried to sell us a bill of goods. They at least tried to make themselves convincing liars. And I think that this the unearned entitlement, the unearned sort of I don't know, I guess, like, self-appointed license to feel extra confident in where you're sitting in government, to be like, no, I'm going to specifically name and target a network that is paid by all of the exact same defense contractors and pharmaceutical companies that the network that I'm giving this statement on is. You all have the same shareholders, stakeholders, whatever you want to call it. You're owned by all of the same people. You push everyone directly into the duopoly and the most establishment parts of it. That's what Fox does. That's what MSNBC does. Jen Psaki is no different than Laura Ingraham in this aspect, especially with what they do with their shows. But I'm going to say that this person's words are violence, so that we can then launch investigations into the lives of private citizens who have shared content based off of this violent, the stochastic terrorist.
It makes me wonder if these people are either just useful idiots and pawns, like, or knowing or not knowing that they're further advancing this type of agenda of surveillance and intrusion in such a way, or if they really believe that, yeah, these words are violence, and so we must stop that. That's why we need this. But is it the means justifying means for the ends to the means? You know, which one is it? Is it do they really want that end goal? Like, oh, we want total surveillance, so I'm going to say it's this words are violence, and that's why we need to go after that. Or they really just want to go after these people or their political opponents, and the surveillance stuff just kind of, oh yeah, but that's tools, we need to do it, but that's not the end goal.
I think that these people are groomed for the positions that they're in based on how petty they are as people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you're the type of person that is super small and vindictive, and you're bright enough to pass the tests, you know, and like jump through the regular hoops in parochial school and traditional, you know, the Western education, whatever, all that kind of shit. In Sandy's case, you know, she was in the international affairs school at Boston University, and Columbia there for a bit. I think that she was, you know, she had an internship for Kennedy. That, you know, she was basically like, she was brought up to be this Congress critter, in much the same way that like Kamala Harris started her career and was, you know, just kind of shuffled into new positions of perceived power, not because of any sort of competency that she brought to the job, but because she was a servant to, you know, whichever immediate boss she had.
Same with the media too, right? You know, people who make it up the ladder in whatever corporate or government-funded media. A lot of times they go through, you know, the fellowships, internships, think tanks, or whatever. And as long as they can just, you know, parrot whatever they're told, they think they're climbing the ladder. Like, this is, oh, and in order to advance my career, I need to join this group. I need to do this, and then I'll get up here, and that's when I've got it made. Because now, just love their institutions, trust in institutions, you know. So like, once I get to this institution, then I'm trustworthy. I'm an authority now. People are going to listen to me. I'm important. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, whatever. So I was watching too, like, you know, looking back at clips from a couple of years ago when they're the news, I think it was in Australia, was pushing the vaccines and vaccine mandates really strong, and calling people selfish and things. Same broadcaster. And then 2 years later, same broadcaster talking about how you can go and filed for vaccine injury compensation and all that. And it's just like, and it's just no irony, not even like reflecting back on like what you were saying before. It's just, that's what the news is. And that was yesterday. Forgotten, out of mind, out of sight. This is this now. And just whatever comes through that teleprompter, like Ron Burgundy.
Well, and there's a convergence of 1984 and Brave New World here, where, and I swear to Christ, man, we've been talking about this now for like 4 fucking years, it seems like, where I was talking about this with the former Army Major Danny Shurston, the author and writer. And he's like a pretty big lefty, but he was at least cognizant of the fact that there was this at least machine in the media that cranked out in the most Orwellian sense the the whims of the state at, of the moment is reality. Whatever happened 10 minutes ago may fall under the category of treason if you talk about it. This is what we're talking about now. Questioning what happened yesterday, a year ago, 2 years ago, that's for historians 30 years from now.
Yeah, you can classify that information, or the science has changed. Yeah, that's if they're going to say anything, the science changed. That's it.
Garland Nixon is sending me fucked up memes, and I haven't even got a chance to dig into it yet. But it's a weird old world, man. It really is. Okay, so all right, I don't want to get too far off my own train of thought here, but we've got this. I mean, like you're saying, and I think I saw the same clip. It was it's just wild to watch him. You let Ron Burgundy it up, you know. Yes, and if anyone is expressing any sort of vaccine hesitancy, you are a granny killing, Nazi, racist, misogynist scumbag. And by the way, if you would like to file for claim for compensation after you have been injured from a vaccine, here's how you do it. It's look, we had to break a few eggs to make the herd immunity omelet. Duh. That's just how science works.
That's what even Fauci was saying too beforehand. Remember a couple of years ago, he said we need to get this percentage vaccinated. First it was like 60 or 70 or 80, then we'll reach herd immunity. Bullshit. This is because of one thing, it does, those never did anything for immunization. And then he knew he was lying. And he even said it later, like, well, I had to say, stretch that out there just so I could get, people to take the stuff. So it's like he even admitted lying. And people were just fine with that, and they're still worshiping him, and getting tattoos and singing songs about him and Pfizer. It's just freaking. The world went insane, man.
It really did. It really did. Donald Trump, primed it. There were a number of different things that went down, and I mean, we had a little. Had some moments of reminiscing last week because it was 30th anniversary of Waco and 28th anniversary of Oklahoma City and Columbine. It was almost 25 or something like that. So all of the like really truly wild shit that went down in the 90s. That really, I mean, so much of it has just been memory hold. But even if you're looking at the last less than a decade, where we had Barack Obama taking a couple of wars, turning them into 7 while getting a Nobel Peace Prize, and then relentlessly attacking the press, whistleblowers. They had to walk back the Trans-Pacific Partnership because the details of it got leaked and the public got a hold of it. So then they spent the next 6 or 7 years trying to figure out how to get absolutely everything that they wanted from the Trans-Pacific Partnership passed through other pieces of legislation, which they mostly have, especially with that North American Union thing. These are where you get the the International Court of Chevron, and I think Steven Donziger is kind of a smarmy, slimy, completely untrustworthy lawyer, but he shouldn't have been prosecuted in the Court of Chevron. I think that personally, his politics and his worldview are vastly different than mine. He's advocated a lot of things that I vehemently disagree with, but he should not have been prosecuted by a Chevron freaking lawyer who was then appointed to be a judge, who then handled his case against Chevron.
Well, to be honest, I don't know anything about that case or that person or anything, but I do want to get to say something about what you said about memory hold, about people not remembering. It's funny because, I was born in 1985, so stuff that happened during the 90s, I was just, 10, 12, 13, just kind of. So for me, memory from stuff like that, that's kind of like I remember what the Oklahoma City bombings. I was in 5th grade. I was sitting in English or some kind of class, and I got that news we put on the TV and stuff. But for a lot of people, especially now, of course, people who were born just in the past 23 years or so, since 2000 or even the late 90s, they don't, 9/11, everything, the banking crisis, Occupy Wall, like they don't know like anything that's gone down, Libya, like there is no memory. So like it's so the importance of reading and going back and watching old footage. That's what I appreciate a lot about your good, awesome guests like Whitney Webb and Johnny Vedmore and then Brian Christensen from T-Lab and even you had Hervoy Moritz on the other day. That was awesome. Like so, people who have actually experienced it, lived it, but also who do all the research and read up on these things. Then that's one way to not get memory hold as it is.
Yeah, and I would shout out to what? I'm gonna fuck up his name every time, man.
Hervoy? Yeah, I know. It's every time I've been on his show on TNT, and it was a couple times. It's awesome, and every time I listen to the announcer say his name first, and then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna say hi Hervoy, but I never do. I just hey, it's going great.
Hey, brother, how's it going?
Yeah.
Somebody. Hey, man. All right. Well, thank you, my friend. I don't know. I used to do that shit as a waiter all the time, and then if somebody was being a dick, I would switch it up to like, champ, tiger, big guy, chief, pal, captain, champion. Just yeah. My name's Jake. Well, that's great, pal.
Yeah, I know I worked in restaurants for almost 10 years as a cook, as a waiter, as a host, as just about everything, dishwasher. Yeah.
I don't miss a moment of that. I really don't.
I got a review once. When I lived in Seattle for a couple of years, and I was a cook at a restaurant there, and I went to the Sasquatch music festival in the Columbia River Gorge. 4 days of good times, and then it was an open air kitchen, so like everyone in the restaurant could hear and see what you were doing. I was talking with the other chef about how I was having a great time and everything like that, and then I looked into the Yelp reviews a couple of days later, and a customer complained. He said, "I don't want to hear when I'm trying to enjoy my crepes or whatever about a cook who was tripping balls over the weekend." that was a fun Yelp review I got.
Then stop eavesdropping in a restaurant, pal. I don't know what to tell you because everybody back in that kitchen is oh man. You should see what they do with the whipped cream. Bro, the restaurant industry exists because of stimulants. Yeah, and your run-of-the-mill fuck up, tripping hippie. Like that's just, who else are you staffing? You know what I mean? Sure, occasionally you get the professional class of server or bartender or whatever, and that's just like that one guy in every telemarketer call center who's like the number one dude every month or whatever, like the only employee of the month every month. Like the one guy who's just can sell people anything and just walk in and do whatever. There's that person behind a bar or as a waitress, but mostly you're getting people who want to pay for their party.
Yep. And then there's also one other element to it was, especially in the Pacific Northwest and Washington State where I've worked. I also worked in Florida in restaurants for a bit. The really person who keeps their head down, hardworking, Hispanic, like either from Mexico or Cuba or Puerto Rico, Guatemala, that doesn't speak much English. But that's how I learned actually I was starting to practice my Spanish a lot. I think that's also helped me with the decision to come down to Colombia, because I was starting to speak Spanish and getting learn the language and communicate. I'm like, hey, I like this, and I want to do something with this. So yeah, that's another type.
No, you're out. You're absolutely right. And they got 4 other jobs.
Yep, and they're sending all money back to family, and respect.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, and I was talking about this with my neighbor. Have you ever spent any time in Colorado?
At the airport, and I've driven through a few times, but no, I've never spent any time.
Colorado's a super weird place. They have long-haired skinheads there. But it was the way that the kitchens worked is that like you got by, or you got elevated, the more white passing you were. It was fucked up. You didn't have Spanish names in the kitchens. If you were Jorge, you were George. If you were Esteban, you were Steve. There's the chef at the place that I worked at was Tajik, and like super freak. I mean, he looked Slovakian. He really did. And that's just kind of like how they moved up the ladder, was by not being the least bit Mexican in the kitchen. It was the English in the kitchen.
Weird. Yeah, the only my only real memory of being in Colorado was at the Denver airport. I was at a bar, and it was just like a bunch of skater kids, just long haired, and everyone's skateboarders, and they were giving me special muffins and cookies, and so that's just like my own experience. Yeah, it is before like a 6-hour flight, so that was wonderful.
There was something I saw just over the weekend. I'm gonna see if I can find it. About here we go. There's a new installment at the Denver International Airport, and it's a little weird.
Is it another mural?
It's not a mural. It's not. And those murals are a little crazy. This, however, a whole different level of odd.
I'm at the Denver airport with a new art installation in the center of the airport. We start off here with the world. At the South Pole, there is a gate, and then around the world is sand. At the North Pole, there's this pole that leads up to this arrow. The arrow points down to what it looks like, perhaps a firmament, to a train station. I should also mention the world is depicted as flat over there. From the train station, from the arrow, we come down here. Perhaps a way to get in and out of the world as we know it. Again, surrounded by rocks and sand. Maybe this is where the lizard people live.
I don't know if it's where the lizard people live, Tim, but that's odd.
That was giving me Vatican vibes there. It was and like
the big snake thing.
Yeah, that big snake thing. Yeah. And also that where was it that celebrate? Was it the not the Olympics, or was it the whatever games? Was it in China? Was it in UK? I can't remember, when they had all the nurses out there, and and people, and like little demons coming around like that, like kind of pre-programming, kind of showing what's to come. Yeah, that Denver thing is like looks really apocalyptic, kind of.
So all you have to do is go to the North Pole and hop on the train, and it will take you outside the ice wall into, or like through the tunnel in Hollow Earth, where it pops you out on the other side of Antarctica or whatever. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Is that the hollow earth theory? Is it a Stargate? Is it one of those things that, like a shamanic ritual? Because in shamanism, like there's the upper world, there's the mid world, and there's the lower world. And so, is that their whole shamanic journey down into the pits of hell and the abyss? I don't know.
It could be. It could be. I wonder if we could find out anything about that art installation. Let's see.
Inspired by Marina Abramovich.
Let's see. Well, that's just the flat. That's that TikTok again. Let's see. No, it's all like old conspiracy stuff. I don't see anything about the new installation other than that TikTok, which is oddly the like third search result that pops up.
It's weird because we can talk about this and just speculate all we want and kind of joke about it. But if it were something, like something to do with some kind of policy, whatever, like they'd say this is dangerous misinformation we're peddling right now. Like shut us down. But like, why we can talk about this like openly, freely, just joking about it and things. But yeah, anything else, if it gets too close to their nerve there, then it's all fuck you, shut it down.
Which, I mean, in that case, we could only assume that is where the lizard people live.
So it's not the North Pole, or it's not going through there yet. So maybe it's the South. Yeah, if we would have said the South Pole, then they would have shut it down. Yeah.
The way, I mean, look, that's a very outside of the box thinking individual that noticed right off of the bat that there was a gate at the South Pole. That's according to conspiracy theory, that is where the entrance to Hollow Earth is supposed to be, if not the exact location of the South Pole, certainly in Antarctica. There's been speculation forever about, the Antarctic Treaty and what it really means and who's actually allowed to go there and poke around. The wording in the Antarctic Treaty is super weird. I don't know if anybody's ever read it or not before. It's something that is supposed to establish Antarctica as a continent meant for purely peaceful means. No military bases can be established on Antarctica according to the treaty. What can be established, and military personnel can be there and be a part of it, are base camps, research camps, things like that. You can do that, and the military can be there, and it can be their base, but it can't be a military base.
Yep, gotcha. And it's weird that a couple years ago, when all those high-level people were going there, did the Pope go there at one point, or John Kerry did, like some other, why? Yeah. Like, I remember that was something really kind of interesting. Like, there's a spate of all these important people going within a short time frame. But that was a couple of years ago, and I remember paying attention for just a second, like, oh, that's weird, but then not looking into it much more.
Okay, so the Pope. Let's see. I guess the Pope didn't go to Antarctica. No. It was the Russian Orthodox Church leader who went to Antarctica. The Pope said, "We're pulling out of Antarctica." The Catholic Church is. I guess the Catholic.
They had a strong presence.
I guess. I don't know. But I'm just kind of looking at shit on the fly. But yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that there was a massive Catholic presence in Antarctica,
unless it was alien.
Although the penguins are kind of wearing the colors of the clergy, so it is possible. I think I had a possible clue as to why that article about the off-book lab and all of that stuff is trying to, because I mean, as you noted, in Australia, they're doing vaccine injury compensation. You do the same thing in Canada. They very quietly are paying people out right now. Same in New Zealand. There's, a number of lawsuits that are in U.S. courts in various stages of getting thrown out. But then there's this thing where NBC News over the weekend reported that thousands of people say they developed tinnitus after they were vaccinated against COVID. And then NBC, well, there is no proof yet that the vaccines cause the condition. Theories for a possible link have surfaced among researchers. So NBC's coming out and saying, okay, well, yeah, maybe tinnitus. Maybe that we'll cop to tinnitus.
Yeah. Start small. Yeah, and you're not going to find anything if you don't look for it. So yeah, but when you're getting bombarded by one thing, it's okay, like you said, oh yeah, tinnitus. Yeah, okay, we can. Yeah, maybe that'll. Yeah, that could be. That's safe enough for us, I guess. The whole side effect stuff and the whole vaccines not being able to stop transmission. We knew about that years ago. All the studies that it already came out from the drug companies themselves. They said that this more what was the verbiage they used? Like more investigations are needed, more data is needed to know about transmissibility and all that. But that's not what the CDC was saying. And then the WHO, the World Health Organization, they came out with that booklet, 99-page how-to guide on how to implement vaccine passports, which they call like digital health certificates or something like that. And they said for governments to roll out. It was backed by Gates Foundation and Kuwait and a lot of big people. And but they said at the thing too, it's like governments should not use this health pass based solely on vaccination status because there isn't enough known about transmissibility. But if you're going to do it, here's how you do it. And they give them 99 pages on how to do it. And they say, we don't recommend you do it, but if you want to, this is how you do it. Just the contradiction there. And then in Colombia, what happened is Colombia was really lax for the longest time about COVID restrictions or about entry and exits and not having to do proof of vaccinations and things. But then in December 14th, 2021, I remember that exactly because I was about to go to the United States for Christmas. But just 2 weeks before Christmas, 11 days before Christmas, they all of a sudden implemented, you can't come into the country unless you're vaccinated. So then I had to cancel my entire trip. And it was my nephew, who was 14 at the time, he had leukemia, and that was his last Christmas, so I missed out on that. So it got really personal for me. It did it 11 days before Christmas. And after knowing all this stuff, they're going by what the WHO says, what their own corrupt government wants to do, but they have all information, and then they still go ahead with this BS anyway, and it just made no sense. It just sorry, I went on a little rant there, but it just pisses me off.
No, and it should, and that's fucked up, and I'm really sorry to hear that, man. It's fucking brutal. I didn't experience anything like that. I know a couple of people who did. I know a couple of people who got cut off from relatives and then didn't get to say goodbye to them, things like that. The amount of stories that came out like that, why it hasn't pushed people into the mentality of, oh, well, this is something you can't vote your way out of. I don't know. But if you've got an international unelected body making decisions for each and every human being on the planet, you've got a significant problem because you're now living under a global dictatorship. Exactly. Whether or not anybody wants to admit it, no matter what your particular illusion of government is, if there's an unelected body making decisions that restrict or determine your ability to travel or get employment, get housing, pay bills, any of that, then yeah, a servant to that master.
And there's some people I talk to about, I try to explain, people in my circles, like face to face, like why like these institutions have become so corrupt and how everything is being centralized and things. And then they say like, well, if we can't trust the institutions, who can we trust? I'm like, yeah, that's right. but they put all the faith in the institutions, and then the institutions come around saying, well, this person's saying this about us. That's eroding trust. That's eroding faith in our institute. Well, stop freaking lying. It's not people calling out your bullshit is not. You're the one who's it just doesn't make any sense to me. But still, people that put all their trust in like, we need this. Otherwise, how else is the world going to work? We just give me.
So here's something to throw at you. It just popped into my head, but I mean, the institutions, and this is an argument that I hear made all the time. Well, the institutions are just a reflection of the people that are in them. So if you just get different people in them, it'll be a different thing. But if you've enshrined these institutions, if you've made the concept of either not having them an aberration or something to be, completely dismissed outright, or if you've, that come to the conclusion that, okay, well, maybe a little bit of, and I don't agree with this conclusion, but I see where people come to it. A little bit of centralization is a good thing because we've got a lot of people that we have to manage, and we can't trust necessarily these people to make good decisions on their own. We've got to have a little bit of central planning. If you've enshrined these institutions to where they're untouchable fortresses that for decades to a century or more have been staffed by and have created a culture of promotion that only rewards narcissists and rampant sociopaths, then that's all you're going to get out of those institutions. And anyone who's like balls deep in their own narcissism or sociopathy is going to be like, look, I know what I said, but what I said was to achieve an agenda, and you talking about it is totally fucking that up. So it's your fault if you weren't being so out of pocket and trying to bust me out. I'd be getting away with this shit.
And it seems like no matter what, I don't know, if it's something to do with entropy, I don't know if even in its initial creation in 1945, the United Nations, after World War II, and try to, build everything to bring everything together and try to not repeat that stuff. Did it start off as something good and like really noble and there were good people and everything like that, and then it just slowly deteriorated? Or was the goal always in mind all right, now we need to consolidate power. That's why we had World War II. That's why we had World War I. We need to centralize all this stuff. And that's how we get to this. But either way, no matter what, if it started off good or bad, things become corrupted. Things become, they have their hierarchies, but then you're going to get knocked off. They become. Then you create a new type of UN, which seems nice to begin with, and then that's going to get shit again. It's just like it's a never-ending struggle. Like what we do in talking about everything that's going on in the world and everything that's all messed up is that it's always a constant struggle. You can't have light without dark. You can't have positive without negative. It's always you just try to maintain a balance. You're never going to fully win, because if you have a utopia, that's horrible. If you have a dystopia, that's horrible. It's got to be a balance.
No, I mean, I agree with that. Absolutely. I think at least where the UN is concerned, there was a body called the League of Nations previously. And definitely not without corruption of its own in its own right. However, when the United Nations was formed, it was formed as a Rockefeller enterprise. And it was formed with the explicit purpose of global governance. The I guess unipolarity that they were fighting was an entity that many of them had funded and created in Adolf Hitler's Germany. And it was the marketing of the UN was we're all coming together to make sure that another Hitler doesn't come to power.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got the voting members of the UN Security Council, which in a position of, let's say alien invasion, they would be the people who are running the show, the UN Security Council. Well, that's the US, the UK, Russia, China, and I can't remember the fifth name off the top of my head. I can't. Sorry, I apologize. Somebody, please roast me in the chat for it. These 5 countries are all ostensibly in the middle of various wars with each other right now, both like pretty public and then also very proxy. I don't know what that says to you or to anybody else, and I wouldn't, I'd be an asshole if I tried to put words in anybody's mouth. But to me, that says that at least at the UN Security Council level, the people who are read into that, who are allowed to participate in those decision-making moments, are working in coordination with each other to preserve a global governance.
Yeah, it's like they don't want one superpower merging. They prefer, some type of balance or something. But even the 8 predictions for 2030 from the World Economic Forum back in 2016 said, the one that, you'll own nothing, be happy. But the other one was America will no longer be a superpower. Like it'll be they didn't say multipolar at that point, but it was like various countries that are going to do it. So they don't want America getting too big. I don't think they want China getting too big, but they just want to kind of smash up things a little bit. Then you bring in, now look at all this chaos. We need to bring the order in, global governance. Yeah.
Well, and then tie all of that into now your entire life will be ran through the X app.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll just park your crypto wallet into X. We'll do away with regular currency because, let's be honest, it's garbage.
Yep.
They can't contain it. They can't control it. The fiat currency was always going to be doomed to fail. You can't constantly create money out of thin air. Tie it to absolutely nothing but your ability to exchange in that currency on an international scale, and expect anything other than eventual rampant inflation and complete devaluation of your currency. You just can't.
I'm still trying to get my head around is how it ties into, instead of having, backed by nothing, well, it's backed by gold and nothing. Now what's coming up is what? Natural assets. That's what we're trying to peg money to now, like carbon and air and water and things like that. So that's something like I'm still researching it, but I still don't have my head wrapped around it completely. I think Whitney Webb spoke with you like even a year or two ago with you on it. That just blows my mind. Tokenizing nature and things like that. So that's the new thing.
Yeah,
that's where value is.
We've had some really good talks, not just with Whitney, but with Corey Morningstar too.
Yes, Corey. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we talked to both of them about it, and I think a lot of it was based on a lot of the conversations with Whitney about it were based on Corey's work.
Mm-hmm.
But the complete commodification of nature as something that you can peg currency to is also something that the BRICS people are interested in. We were looking at this the other week. They're talking about not just gold and silver and precious minerals and rare earth minerals, but also air, water, and earth.
Mm-hmm.
That soil is something that they're looking at pegging currency to.
Yeah, I saw that at COP27 last year. I clipped a few video clips, put them on Twitter, and put them in an article I wrote about it. It was Michael Sheeran or something like that. He was the former Bank of England guy, and now he's into natural asset stuff. And he was saying carbon is close to becoming a currency, and next we're going to tokenize all these natural assets and make money on that because he was talking about trees, water, air, everything.
And that's, that to me is kind of insane because the way that we've sort of allowed ourselves to view what the quote unquote free market is that it's an oligarchical system of total corporate capture. That's not going to bode well with air stock. That's not going to bode well with, when they completely, if you're going to peg a currency to water or to dirt, you've just made all of the water that exists and all of the dirt that exists a national security target.
Yeah.
Great. Let's do that. Not that they are not anyway, but it's usually considered bad form to poison the water. Usually, at least in war, you could do it to your own citizens and call it fluoride until you get busted.
Yeah.
Shout out to Bros, by the way, Derek Bros, for doing a bunch of good work on the whole fluoride thing. I got at the same time that Derek got sent all of the stuff on revelations in fluoride through court cases that most of us already knew, but they hadn't said publicly yet. Derek was in a position to be like, yes, I can take 3 weeks to write about this. I wasn't. He's done tremendous work on it. We need to be highlighting.
Derek Bros, that guy's a machine. He is just like between activism and between like running for mayor and writing articles and then getting these information requests. Like he is just nonstop moving all the time, doing his tours, activate. Like, wow, yeah, a lot of respect to him.
Yeah. I've really got to do something about my time management, man. I really do. I'm getting better. I am. I'm getting better. Just traditionally, but I heard Anthony Cumia talking about this, where that creative people don't operate necessarily well on a schedule. Douglas Adams used to say, I love deadlines. I love the whooshing sound they make because they fly by. Cumia was talking about, like, I know that I'm supposed to be here around 4-ish. I come in and I do my thing and I leave. Like, that's it. But when it comes down to being the sort of like content generating machine that, somebody like Roses or Ryan, for example, like, dude, that's some goals right there. It really is. I mean,
I used to, back, when I started at The Sociable, and for quite a few years, I used to just try to find stories, write about it quickly. And sometimes I'd write 2 or 3 a day. I'd pump them out. Like, I'd put a quota for myself. And I got these many articles done. And then I realized, like, this is boring. Who gives a shit? Nobody cares. And then, so once I started to, like, stop, slow down, not give myself deadlines, and just try to, research things and go, then all of a sudden, things became a lot better. But so no deadlines for me. And the time management it's a bit weird, but I can't. Someone like Derek, that's amazing what he does.
Maybe it's maybe I need to like change around the mushroom compound mixing. No, actually, I have a bunch of a handful of mushrooms that are not psychedelic. That I try to take regularly, and I do notice a difference if I'm consistently taking like lion's mane and a couple of other things in terms of my overall focus and energy and ability to not wander off as I occasionally do. But I mean, look, it's really hard to take the dog out for a walk and then see a whole bunch of desert and mountains right over there. And it's really nice out. Yeah, I know I've got stuff to do, but look at the dog. He wants to go for a walk too. We could both use a hike, a little bit of non-Vegas air. It's only 45 minutes one way. And then an additional 3 hours, and then an additional probably hour and a half on the way back because you got to make a couple of stops. Next thing you know, it's half your day. But
well, man, what a trip! That nice, yeah.
Bro, I never thought that I would enjoy Vegas And I guess I'm poor. I don't enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like that, but what I've been able to find to make it okay has been really fucking cool. And there's just a whole bunch of desert wilderness out there. That's freaking awesome. If I wanted to, and if I wasn't, spending more time outdoors or trying to get other shit done, I could go to comedy 7 nights a week for free if I wanted to. So in terms of that, yeah, but I can't.
Did you grow up in a city?
No, man. I grew up in between woods and cornfields in central Indiana.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I thought you would have been a California person whole life.
I just sound like this.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, I'm not from a city either. I lived in Medellin, which is about an hour away from here, for about 3 years. But being in a cramped apartment in a city, I mean, the city is awesome. It's cool. There's stuff to do. But like, I just want to get out all the time. Then that means spending money. And then there's all this traffic and there's all this pollution and stuff. And I didn't grow up in a city. I'm from a small town. Spent half my childhood in upstate New York, half my childhood in Washington State. In rural places, a lot of trees and mountains and woods and rivers and lakes and things. So
where at in upstate New York?
In the Adirondacks.
Okay.
About around Glens Falls, Lake George area.
Okay.
An hour north of Albany.
Okay. Yeah. Well, like Sam Tripoli country up there.
Huh.
Yeah. No, I didn't get that far upstate. I didn't. Like the furthest upstate I really hung out is Saratoga Springs.
Oh yeah, that was about an hour away from there is where I grew up. So yeah, Saratoga's an awesome town. I like that. Go to the racetrack a couple times. Yeah.
The racetrack's cool. SPAC is cool.
Oh yeah. I saw Dave Matthews Band there too. Yeah, that's good.
I'm sorry. I made good money in Dave Matthews parking lots. I can't hate on him. It definitely funded my lifestyle for a couple of years in the 90s. For sure. But yeah, SPAC was awesome. I did a Renaissance festival there 1 year right outside of Saratoga. And then the other one was in Tuxedo Park, right across the Tappan Zee Bridge. There's a restaurant there called the Red Apple Rest that's in a whole bunch of Woody Allen movies for some reason. Like they just really like that little Tuxedo Park. There was a ski resort there where the Renaissance Festival, I don't know. But very redneck, very rural. It's just nice mountain freaking wood hicks with New York accents.
Yeah. Isn't that fun?
But no, man, the town that I grew up in, Chris Hedges wrote about in America the Farewell Tour, because it was a GM town. And when NAFTA got passed, the town itself sort of collapsed. That happened in like 94, 95. I graduated high school in 96. So it was just starting to get a little weird when I left. And then in the ensuing, almost 30 years, it's pawn shop, shopping center, church, meth house, racetrack, Nestle Quick Factory, strip club, meth house. Yeah, and that's about, yeah. And that's about what it's gone to. You can drive down just about any street and there will be like a little, there'll be like a little, I guess, 40-person church, little neon sign in the window, and they're like right next to a gun shop.
And so how's it like now then sorry, now I'm starting to interview you like in Vegas and things, like how's like, are you like in town a little outskirts?
Oh yeah. No, I am in town. I'm literally on Las Vegas Boulevard.
Oh wow.
Yeah. The South Point Casino is fairly close. The Strip proper is about 2.5 miles up the road. Dirty Vegas, Fremont Street, Old Vegas, and stuff like that, like 20 minutes away. Everything is about 20
Did you get
minutes.
recognized in the street?
I haven't here.
No?
No, but there's only like 5 people from Vegas that listen to the show, so it's okay. I have got recognized in airports, which is super weird. I've had to like take pictures with people. That was
Whoa.
uncomfortable as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also like this last year, I haven't really gone out and done like any events here or anything like that. You know what I mean? Except for Freedom Fest, and that was all basically tourists. What I would like to do is I would like to do one of the shows that I do on a stage before I leave Vegas. That it looks like that might be the Blunt Force show at this point because all 3 of us live here. But that would be fun. I think some live podcasting and some shit talking would be pretty groovy. But yeah, clock's ticking on that, boy. Clock's ticking on that. I've been formulating my escape plan since I got here because I don't city well. I just don't. I don't. And yeah, it was gonna be one of 2 places. Got it as finalized as it's gonna get. Stoked. Well, let's dip back into some of the weirdness. Let's see. I guess we could stay in the realm of science and virus for a minute before we and look, man, I don't know where you stand on this. I really, over the last few years, I'm swinging further and further into there's a nebulous area that incorporates some of what we know about germ theory and some of what we know about terrain theory. And I don't necessarily think I'll ever be ardently in any particular camp because I think that the world is much more nuanced than that. But I do think that there's a fuck ton of merit to a lot of the arguments in terrain theory.
Before getting into that, I mean, or as part of that, because I have some questions. So it was on germ and terrain theories. One of them something about like there's not actual germs. It's something just about like an imbalance that's in your system that And so whenever there's an imbalance, and then all of a sudden the disease comes up. Well, it's not. It's some kind of imbalance.
It is. It's literal dis-ease. Your body is in a state of dis-ease. And so that's I mean that's how it's framed at least. Go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's us trying to figure out what the difference of what germ theory was and terrain theory, because I've heard those tossed out a few times, and I've heard a couple people talk a little bit about them, but not really define it that much. Just kind of some ideas here and there, but I'm not fully zoned in, like understanding it.
Yeah. So germ theory, virus theory, it basically says that there's, these microscopic organisms, living, breathing things that can be isolated, defined, classified, quantified, all that kind of stuff. And that through various means of transmission will impact your body's immune system, wreak havoc to it. Terrain theory, and look, I'm doing an oversimplified version of this, so don't come at me, chat. Don't. I am doing an oversimplified version of this. And then terrain theory says no, that there's no such thing as viruses. Germs are a poorly explained way of saying that the terrain of our body and the environment in which we live are not cohabitating in harmony, and that there's something that's off, usually in the gut biome, and then stemming from there, that is allowing for this condition of dis-ease that we are experiencing. And a number of the things that are considered to be not necessarily incurable, but at this point we don't have cures, merely treatments for diseases like cancers and things like that can in fact quite easily be cured by a restructuring of your internal terrain, incorporating that with things that you do externally within your environment to restore harmony to your body's ecosystem.
Very nice, Steve. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that the reality lies somewhere in the middle. You know, I can't prove that. I can't. And so I'm not selling anything based on it.
Same here, because the terrain theory makes a lot of sense to me about the imbalance and things. But at the same time, you look at like, well, I was with this other person who had a disease or was unwell, and now I am. So yeah, so that's kind of with the germ one. So yeah, I don't know either, but yeah.
And then so you take that and then you incorporate how much of illnesses are reported to be psychosomatic, you know, and how much of that has to do with your own personal mindset and how you feel when you're ill, and things of that nature. So I honestly don't know, and that's why I don't get mad at anybody for having any sort of opinion on this. With the only thing that I'm ever going to take issue with is when someone is trying to sell me certainty about something they don't know and they can't prove, and now my life has to be restructured to go along with their guess.
Yep. Yeah, that's a major theme across many areas, many disciplines. Yes.
And I mean, I guess the reasoning behind it being that we are too feeble-minded as mere peasants to make decisions that would, correctly guide our lives. So we need these people. And I mean, I guess, if you needed somebody in the 1100s to be like, no, Dan, wash your hands, okay, I can see that. I can. Clean the food, important. There are multiple steps that we can take, but I guarantee you, Tim Hinchcliffe, if we stop putting all kinds of actual poisons into our bodies, and we took a legitimately, I even kind of hate saying the word because of what's happened to it, but holistic approach to what healthcare is, not sick care, not symptom care, but actual health care, we would see a ton of these diseases drop right the fuck off.
I really think that, being abroad for 9 years now, every time I have celiac disease, so I can't have gluten. I didn't realize that until I was 26, so I had lots of problems growing up. But whenever I go back to the United States, in all the food that's there in the soft drinks, like I can't drink any sodas there unless they're the cane sugar ones, because everything has high fructose corn syrup. For me, that gives me brain fog. I can't concentrate. I get frustrated really easily, and it's just a pain in the neck. And then like all the preservatives and things that are in the foods there, and maybe even the fluoride in the water. I don't know. But when I'm in Colombia, I feel amazing, apart from this weekend with the food poisoning. But like the egg yolks are orange; they're not yellow. Like the food is wholesome. Like if you go and buy some meat, if you don't cook that up, even if you put it in the fridge, if you don't cook that up in a day or two, it goes bad, rotten, like in a day or two. There's not all these preservatives and shit in it. So it seems to me like the U.S. has been an experiment for a long time in just messing with people's gut biome, which affects their brain, which affects their thinking, which I think affects like how their level of acceptance of just being so tranquilized or whatever, of just going anesthetized, of going along with whatever, because people are just run down and don't want to do it. They're just, I don't know, run down. That's how I felt in the United States. Every time I go and visit, like I start getting brain fog. I start feeling lazy. I don't want to do stuff. I want to eat more, but I'm almost feeling full, but not satisfied. It makes me want to eat more. And then I'm, always in a constant state of like trying to battle with my own body there. But here in Colombia, I don't have that at all.
Do you see chemtrails there?
No, I mean, no, not at all. I mean, I'm outside, yeah, like I said, outside the city of Medellin, and I'm right now, and I'm in the mountains. I can see it all around me. It's cloudy and stuff right now, but no, I don't see hardly any planes passing by. I only see like military helicopters.
Because I see it, I mean, we do the unhappy trails hashtag on Twitter. Which, by the way, you guys, if you're outside, you look up, you see some weird shit, take a picture, tag amwakeup, use the hashtag unhappy trails. But I mean, I see a lot from the UK. I see a lot in some parts of South America, some parts. There are parts of Brazil that were getting heavily chemtrailed the other week. There's Chile has had a bunch in a couple of major cities, but nothing like I see in the U.S. And I mean, in the Santa Cruz Mountains, it would be a grid pattern all freaking day long for weeks on end. There was the redwoods get fed from the leaves for a lot of it. There is a root system and all that kind of shit, but they take in most of their nutrients foliarly, and without a fog belt, they die. Well, the fog belt was taken away for about 6 years, and then there was just wildfire after wildfire after wildfire after wildfire that went more or less in the direct proposed path of high-speed rail. Oddly, as soon as the high-speed rail project got scrapped, the wildfires popped up in completely different spots that had absolutely nothing to do with the proposed path of the rail.
I saw something also with the wildfires a year or two ago, and there's a lot of speculation about direct energy weapons or something like that. But just because they would hit, like I said, like on this one trail, like either or hit this house, this one right here, and not touch this one and do that. But yeah, I don't know about any validity to that, but it's an interesting one to think about.
So I'm gonna see if they got a decent picture of it, but the lightning strike that we got in Santa Cruz that burned us out looked like a fucking Tesla coil.
Ooh.
And there were a couple of them. That's not the good one. God damn it. And I'm sure that a couple of those are scrapped from standard internet, but let me see if I have it on my Twitter. Because I'm pretty sure. Oh no, that got scrapped too. Neat. Let's see. Boo. Not great. Oh well. All right, I tried. But yeah, it was just like a column of lightning that supposedly, started a couple of these fires, and the burn patterns were so odd. You would have in spots like rims from cars, hubcaps melted to the pavement, and then right next to it, 3 feet away, would be perfectly unscathed live trees continuing to grow and flourish and prosper.
Yeah.
Just
So
super
so if that were man-made or whatever, if that were some kind of HARP or something project, then yeah, that's how you solve your whole climate problem, right? If they're saying we have a climate problem, and you do all this other stuff to restrict everything that you do and make everything more expensive, and make it so you can't go anywhere or heat your home or whatever, then why don't just use this technology then? But because at the same time, it's like we have this technology that can alter weather and stuff, so why not? Of course, in my opinion, like don't touch that shit at all. Don't do anything. But
Well, and to that point, thing that I was gonna bring up about them who we got off on the terrain and germ theory thing.
Oh yeah.
Now people are saying, scientists are saying, that there's something called Mirus viruses, and they live on the ocean floor. Which is super cool because with deep sea mining, what we're doing is basically raking the ocean floor for precious minerals. A totally new type of virus been found living on the sunlit surface of seas and oceans, dubbed Mirus viruses. Mirus meaning wonderful or strange in Latin.
A wonderful virus. All right.
These microbes are related to both giant viruses and herpes viruses. As such, the discovery might help to illuminate the murky evolutionary history of herpes. Oh, that's
The
great.
murky.
We've dug up super herpes on the ocean floor. This is what happens when you put fucking video vixens on yachts. One of them fucks up. You have to knock them off, throw them over into the depths, the briny blue. And the next thing you know is the body of the video hoe breaks down. It creates the super herpes that she died with. Yeah. There's a whole tragic horror movie arc just waiting to be exploited in here. Fortunately for us, Mirus viruses are not interested in humans. Well, that's helpful. Then why
Not yet.
You're right. Let's see. How do you gain a function from
Exactly. Get that to a lab.
Does suggest, however, that ancestors of herpes viruses once infected marine single-cell organisms. Okay. Though their evolutionary heritage links back to herpes viruses, the majority of Mirus viruses genes are similar to those of giant viruses, literally just really big viruses. These people don't know what the fuck they're talking about, Tim.
What's the difference?
We're making shit up.
What's it? I mean, how do you isolate the virus? This one's a big one. They're all microscopic. Yeah, okay, sure.
Well, and all they can show us is what they look like on a computer model.
Mm-hmm.
They can't show us one under a microscope. They can point to areas that they're saying are, locale of viri or whatever they're fucking calling it. But you can't actually demonstrate that you've isolated any of these things. And so it really is just kind of people talking shit.
Yep.
I kind of feel the same way about AI. We've got fast algorithms, but we don't have artificial intelligence. Like the top 100 AI scientists on the planet all got together a couple of months ago, wrote a report out, and they're saying 2070 is about when they're pinpointing what they think with current advancements in technology, acquisition of resources, not accounting for nuclear holocaust or anything like that. It would be around 2070 when we would achieve something like actual artificial intelligence.
Seems to me it'd be quicker, just how quickly things are going about. And I wonder if they had anything to, tied into it with quantum computing, because that one, quantum computing to me, it just blows my freaking mind just how that works and how quick and how they can solve problems very quickly. But if I don't know, this is another area too where I don't write too much about, but just the emergence of quantum and AI. Like if those two together just accelerates like crazy. So like a date of 2070, if they say so, but I don't know. It seems like something would come quicker to me.
Well, and there's definitely news reports that will corroborate that, especially where quantum is concerned. Let's pull this up. Okay, let's see. let's get to the actual QCware, a software startup company that has raised more than $33 million. Ding, 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 ding. Initially focused only on software that could run on quantum computers that it needed to change to find a solution for clients today until future quantum machines arrive. So they turned to NVIDIA processing units, nice little native advertising there, to figure out how we can get them something that's a big step change in performance, build a bridge to quantum processing in the future. So GPUs, or microchips that were made to process video for gaming, became so powerful they do the bulk of AI computing today. They're now being used in quantum development. So they're unveiling a quantum-inspired software platform called Prometheum.
Oh boy.
Which, yeah. Now, is that like a Robert Ludlum thing? Like the Prometheus? I want to say that there was some predictive programming thing that had, anyway, stimulate chemical molecules to see how they interact with things like protein on a traditional computer using GPUs. The software can cut simulation time from hours to minutes for molecules of 100 atoms, months to hours for molecules of up to 2,000 atoms compared with existing software solutions. Okay. So to your point, they're definitely trying to bridge the gap.
It seems like one of the big hurdles or obstacles is trying to get, the actual quantum computers themselves, getting something that's stable enough and then it's calibrated enough. Yeah, so like I think maybe that might be why it could take a little longer, just trying to get the hardware down.
Right? Let's see. StrangeWorks apparently operates a cloud with over 60 quantum computers on it. I'm not even sure what StrangeWorks is or why they're doing it or why they don't have a link for it. It's the one thing they don't have a link for.
If you scroll up a little bit, didn't it say something about being funded by some In-Q-Tel and Eric Schmidt? If you go up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. Big name investors and funds are backing the future, such as Alphabet Inc.'s former chairman Eric Schmidt, asset manager T. Rowe Price, Samsung, and the venture arm of the U.S. intelligence agencies In-Q-Tel.
Yeah. Okay, so that's just in general backing quantum. Okay, yeah, right. Or it says backing the future. So
yeah,
I guess general.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, we were talking about this on Slow News Day yesterday, at least in terms of the National Security Council on Artificial Intelligence, the fact that all of these people are on the board of that too. So you've got a public-private partnership in terms of how the federal government is approaching what they perceive to be the AI question or problem or issue, or whatever it is of the day. If you've got In-Q-Tel and Eric Schmidt together on any venture, that you can guarantee that it's going to be used to surveil you and harvest your data. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, and the whole nature of those public-private partnerships that always gets me is just, where does one end and the other begin? That seems like the merger of like everything. That's how you consolidate power. That's how you centralize shit. And I even look at it the same way with even transhumanism. Once you have more machine than human, which one takes over? Which one is actually calling the shots? Which one has more influence? Which one has more power? Actually, a couple of years ago, this reminds me, I had a dream about that. I had a dream about an AI brain-chipped future society, and then it was about, I was in a mental asylum for people that had their AI chips went wrong. And so what they were in was like some kind of thing from Dante's Inferno or whatever, of just being lost in this psychedelic AI trapped world, not knowing what reality is. I actually wrote a story about that too. I published it a few years ago called what the hell, the Ubermensch and the Cuckoo's Nest or something like that. It was a weird. It's like I had a weird dream and then I had to write about it the next day. But but the whole where does one begin? Who's calling the shots? Yeah, with public-private partnerships, which one's government, which one's not, and then how does that affect you? What influence do they have over you? Yeah.
Right. Well, and with feel-good stories like this one, Out of free think, Stanford scientists can control specific brain cells at a distance. It calls into question. I guess it calls into further question the concept of free will, or whether or not, given advanced algorithms, something approaching artificial intelligence or quantum computing, and their decision-making abilities and predictive abilities, at what point are you by default living in a simulation?
Yuval Noah Harari has a lot to say about that. On his stuff, about how we're hackable animals, with free will and things like that. I'm still on the fence about like whatever his opinions are. Like, he seems very materialistic, and whatever his opinions are about what I think I agree with him. And I think he's doing a good service and sharing information. Like, hey, we can. This is what's possible. But other than that, so I'm grateful that he puts information out there. I don't agree with like everything that he says about more of the metaphysical stuff, but on the actual things. And it's not like, is he actually saying this is what's going to happen, this is what should happen, this is what we're going to do? Like, so people like him, I'm always on the fence of. Elon Musk right now, on the fence as well. Even that Duke professor who spoke at Davos a few times, and last year was the one about are we ready for brain transparency? They're saying like, we can pick up and decode images in your mind. We can pick up and decode your bank account and stuff like that. And then they're still saying like, we should this can be really helpful in the workplace, but I'm still for cognitive liberty and all that. And so it's like, okay, really, how much power do these people have? They're putting information out there. They're academics and things like that. So, apart from Elon Musk, he's got a lot of power. But like for Yuval Harari, it's like, okay, interesting. I'm grateful for the information, whatever, but that's about it. Like I've heard so many times that Harari's a top advisor to Klaus Schwab or whatever. I've never, I think the only place that originated from, I'm not sure, but I think that was J.P. Sears who said it once in a video, talking about it. But I've not seen any documentation or anything that says that he's a top advisor to Klaus Schwab, whatever. Just he's spoken a few times, and he hasn't been back since like 2020 to Davos. So I don't know if he's distancing himself or not. But anyway, that was a little tangent there. Sorry.
Interesting. I based on what I've heard from Yuval Harari, he's one of the most openly anti-human individuals I've ever heard speak on the condition of humanity.
Right. And so, yeah, that's where I get like what I think. What he's saying is, I try to play devil's advocate and see both sides. Because when I first heard, I started covering him back in 2018 when he was speaking about this stuff. Humans are organisms are algorithms. Humans are hackable and stuff. Like, whoa, yeah. From that point of view, like with getting information, biometric information, how you think, how you feel, and things like that, and a lot of computing power. That's how you hack humans. Okay, from a materialistic standpoint, yeah, I guess so. But yeah, I've also heard other stuff where he says, just totally denying, God or anything like that. It's very materialistic. So it just seems to. But apart from that, even those ideas, it's like, okay, you can think that. I don't have to agree with you, but whatever. It's like I take the information you're putting out there because about the technology and how this stuff can be used. So I'm really grateful for that. But apart from that, you're what you would like to see done, or what you think about it. I don't. It's like whatever. It's not like I'm going to praise them or like demonize them. Or it's just like, oh, I don't like that.
What I see it as is a blueprint for what we have to develop to combat this.
Yeah. So that's why I'm grateful the information is out there, because without him, I wouldn't have been so dialed in with his danger formula and how to hack humans. That it was very specific.
Here's why the censorship now, though, because you and I weren't really meant to get this information, or at least to get this information that way. If we were ever to receive this particular information, we were supposed to have already gone through some sort of acolyte process, or at least some sort of like indoctrination into this line of thinking, because he's delivering these talks to specific audiences.
Yep.
And I guess the esoteric nature, and by that I mean like the root of, you know, something being esoteric, where it's kept from the general public, where it's, you're only supposed to be able to have access to the information if you've gone through you know, a certain number of steps or progressed through certain levels to where you can understand and comprehend and have the scope of knowledge to be able to
Be
brain
initiated.
process what my deep shit is swing, you know, like it, that kind of shit. That's why they're fucking cracking down on us so hard, because when most people hear something like that, your first reaction is to recoil in horror, you know, and then that would at least put you into a fight or flight response where you wouldn't necessarily be really listening to what's going on. So then if you're not really listening to what's going on, you're only reacting to what's on the surface, you have no idea how you can defend yourself against it. You have no idea how to prepare for any of that. And I think that so much of what independent media does poorly, because it's all, you know, everybody's livelihood is dependent on clicks and attention span, is there's this tendency to over sensationalize, hype the surface, and then just move on to the next outrage so quickly that nobody has a chance to process what's actually going on, or to be able to have a conversation about, okay, well, this is happening. What do we do about it?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm one of those people that I don't put forward really solutions, you know, and I've heard, you know, from a lot of people that I respect, like, you should, you know, offer solutions, put things forward. But for me, I'm like not that smart. I don't think. I mean, I do a lot of research. I see things that are going on, and I can do pattern recognition and see kind of things that are coming forward. But my goal, you know, in writing and in publishing is to put information out there, and hopefully that someone a lot smarter than I can use that in some way, you know. That's kind of like, but I've been, you know, guilty of going from one thing to the next, just like, oh my goodness, this, you know, cyber pandemic, this vaccine passport, that digital ID, this CBDC, look at all this stuff, you know. Am I offering any solutions? No, I'm living in, you know, in the middle of a mountain, you know. That's kind of that's I'm trying to live it, but yeah, I don't know, you know, there's no one size fits all, whatever, either for a solution. That's another thing, you know. What's good for the goose isn't good for the gander, you know.
Well, and this is what frustrates me to no end when I have conversations with people and arguments with people about this stuff, to you know, when they're like, okay, well, Mr. Smarty Pants, what's your answer? And it's like, well, have you not watched the show? Because I tell you all the time that I'm not selling you a solution, but we bring on people pretty consistently that all have, if not, you know, full spectrum, here's a ready-made answer for all of your questions. They've got things that they're working on that are legitimately helping people extract themselves from a technocratic state. There's a number of different ideas and concepts that have been brought forth that we discuss pretty openly and pretty regularly, about ways that people can take a little bit more, you know, fundamental liberty in their own lives each and every day. There's steps that people can take to, you know, secure some more autonomy in their future. And if you believe at all in something like the ripple effect, then it stands to reason that it's going to work proportionately for you. You know, I mean, like, yeah, dude, what I do know and what I've always said is that the reward for stopping this shit is the ability to determine what happens next. You know, the idea that you're going to have a ready-made solution for all of the problems that come along with, a collapse of the Western Empire, or which is happening, or a complete restructure of the global financial system, which is happening.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have all the answers for it. The people who are creating the problem don't have all the answers for it. You're expecting me to?
Yeah, I got into. I mean, yeah, the only thing I can provide, like, I can give other perspectives and solutions that people, suggest. But at the same time, for me, it's just my motivation for the whole thing is like, what can I do to make be left alone? I just want to be left alone. That's it. And so that's what even it got when we were talking about how I got more into this type of writing and covering these topics was, yeah, during the pandemic, all the government responses and the great, oh shit, this is really affecting me. I need to write about this. I don't want this to affect me in this negative way and things. I want to tell people about these digital IDs, these vaccine passports, this totalitarian technocratic creep. Just because I just want them to leave me alone.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And I mean, look, if we got to a point, we got pushed into a spot where minding your business was somehow looked down upon.
Selfish. Yeah.
Where there was this, and we've talked about this a lot with Corey, but this whole like global citizen thing. I've said this about activism, and I believe it to be true, and that part of what made me an ineffective activist when I was being an ineffective activist was because of this. But there's a tendency for people to try to solve their problems by ignoring them and then getting involved in somebody else's problems. And that can look a lot like pulling up at an anti-war protest or an Occupy thing or whatever it is. A lot of people did that with Black Lives Matter, man. A lot of people did. They threw all of their insecurities and all of their freaking anxiety and all of that other shit into policing other white people.
Yeah, that's psychological projection. I remember listening to the Monty Python guy, comedian John Cleese. He was quoting somebody else, but he said, "Those who can't control their own emotions have to control other people's behaviors." I think he was quoting a psychologist or whatever. But it's like, yeah, it's true. That's that psychological projection. Like, we don't know what to do with our lives. We're so messed up. We hate everything. We don't want. So we need to go out and do something like, Black Lives Matter or climate activism or whatever. Just because a lot of people are neurotic and paranoid at home and don't know what to do. Yeah, unhappy.
Yeah, there's something that's totally there's an incompleteness and an inability to make it a whole, or at least to take the time to do a personal inventory to recognize what your fundamental problems may be. And how to address those.
And they generally want to do something in the world, to do some good. But yeah, it stems from own insecurities. If you're more grounded in what, who you are and what you want and how you can better your own life, then you can better those around you. But they want to start, because you can't do anything without first being well within yourself. But they want to tackle the whole world before looking within.
Yeah. And they're told that it's selfish to do so if you do. And then that leads to the projection that anybody else doing it must be selfish. And it's your job to get them to heal the world with you first before anybody addresses what's going on with them. That's totally backwards. I believe that that's by design.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that people are pushed into doing all kinds of I guess seeming acts of service that are definitely acts of service, but in service to a less than benevolent entity, you know, or group. And it's, yeah, you can't, if you're not healthy within your own right,
Mhm.
you're never going to be able to give the, good help to other people. Yeah, and you're always going to be performing way under your potential.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But fortunately, there's still plenty of time for people to figure that shit out. There's still plenty of time for people to, like, at least partially get some of your shit together.
Yep. There's always
Yeah.
hope. Yeah.
Think so. I think so. Look, if they're saying that we don't get the AI till 2070, if the people that are if the same people that are responsible for lockdowns, digital health certificates, all of that nonsense are, talking about, we're still going to be pushing these people into this in 2050. That gives me, that gives me a nice big boost, because I really do feel like, in as much as you don't get very far forcing a new way of life down people's throats.
Mhm.
We saw that with all of the pushback with the lockdowns in general anyway.
Right.
With the
But
very same token, go ahead.
But at the same time, though, I saw some kind of discouraging stuff out of, not to bring it down, but like, yeah, even with CBDCs in Nigeria, when you're saying like not forcing stuff, like people rise, but if they do it in small increments, that, that little tiptoe thing, it's in Nigeria. What happened was they launched the CBDC in like a year ago, or in October, a year and a half, whatever. A year later, 0.5% adoption rate. Nobody wanted it. And then so they started, okay, so now you can't take out this much money anymore. You can only take out like $40 a week, whatever. When the average person has to spend like $40. I don't know how the math on it, but they limited how much you could take out. So now the people started getting hungry. And so like they were literally like trying to starve people into accepting the CBDC. And then people started doing it. So that's one of those things where I thought it'd be a little more gradual, like, but I guess it is on a global scale. It is gradual. Like, look what happened in Nigeria, because we can get away with that shit there. But if there's something like that came to the U.S. though, but I was watching something a couple years ago. It was a World Economic Forum technology something or cybersecurity summit. I can't remember what it was, but it was someone from the Blockchain Council, and then also had Mikhailo Fedorov from Ukraine, their digital transformation guy. And they were talking about how the vaccine passports could force consensus on digital ID and bring that all in. And they asked the blockchain lady if something like that could happen in the U.S. And she said, no, it'd be a lot more fragmented. It's more difficult in the U.S., but elsewhere along the world, it'd be a little more easier. So do you think that something like that, like when bringing in these forced things, the biggest pushback you think would be in the United States? You think the United States, the people here would resist enough? Or because I saw also what happened in Australia during the pandemic and during the lockdowns, and it seemed like Australia, like almost a lot of people went along with it. So I was really surprised, because I remember like trying to reach out to some Australians and stuff like that, and they're like, no, we don't believe in that. We don't have your First Amendment, and we want more order and stuff. I know it's a really small portion of not a really good representation, but I was surprised by some of Australia's reactions. But I don't know. What do you think about in America?
Well, so I know from traveling all during lockdowns that there were the vast majority of the people that I talked to that weren't in major cities or part of a system that was implementing a bunch of the bullshit all saw through it. There were a bunch of people that are go along to get along and went along, but just as easily could have been swayed to go the other way had the conversation or the media narrative been different. Do you know what I mean?
So, yeah,
So
more a rural versus urban thing, and then yeah.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
And that could be like anywhere in the world too. So even what I was saying about Australia, maybe I was talking to someone that was just from a city or something like that, and not out in the bush or something like that. Yeah.
Well, but I mean, even inside cities, um, when we were in DC, like right in the heat of it, there were still a ton of people that were looking for any excuse that they could to not be masked up, that would sometimes like nervously pull it up if they saw somebody coming around a corner or whatever, then like make eye contact with the person or see the other person not wearing a mask, whatever, and then like immediately get rid of it. But it was one of those things where there was I guess like a constitution check that would take place with people to see if it was safe. I remember getting out of my truck right outside of the hardware store in downtown Boulder Creek and getting yelled at across the street by an old neighbor of mine, because this is how you communicate. You shout at each other across the street. So, and because it's a small town, you don't necessarily, worry about walking across the street too much. But anyway, she walked over to her and she was like, "Can I give you a hug?" And I'm like, "Oh, fucking course you can," But it was maybe June or July of 2020, like right into lockdown and so people didn't, but as soon as you gave them permission to not follow the dumb rules, they went right back to doing what they would normally do and communicating like a regular human being.
That's how important, physical connections and contact is and everything. So if are told to stay inside, locked down, and every information is all, virtual internet, and every interaction, you don't get that. Just something like a hug. That just, just shows the human contact and the human connection that's really important to break through all this psyop bullshit.
Yeah, dude. And I'll never fucking forget that. And then what, you're basically in the middle of the street, broad daylight, it's Saturday. There's people around all over the place. And doing that in front of everybody or what, it gives everybody else permission to do it too. And there's, at least in small mountain town, there was a majority of the people that were like, yeah, we're not doing this dumb shit. No, okay, look, you want me to wait in line to go into the hardware store because we got to be 6 feet apart? Okay, whatever. I'll help you train your facial recognition algorithm with my sunglasses on, my hat down, and a bandana over my face. That'll help. I did get a kick out of the one place that I absolutely had to mask up to go into was the bank. That was just awesome. Standing outside of the bank, putting on a bandana, getting ready to go in. You guys should be shooting me. You know that, right? You should be. By rights, I should have guns drawn on me right now just for doing that. But now it's the only legal way I'm allowed to walk in.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's do that. I want to do like one story and then kind of get out of here. I'm going to be doing critical hour, I think early-ish. But let's see. Oregon is getting ready to open its first 3 legal psilocybin treatment centers.
All right.
Oregon, of course, became one of either the only or one of a very small number of states to decriminalize drugs across the board, turning it into, or at least turning Portland into a 24-hour, 3-dimensional, nonstop screening of train spotting.
Jeez. Man, I grew up 45, went to middle school and high school, 45 minutes from Portland. I used to love going down there into the farmers markets and stuff. This back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I really liked it.
I was hanging in Portland then.
Oh.
I sold driftwood furniture a handful of times at farmers market
Oh,
on
shit.
Saturday.
I might have seen you.
I had a buddy that was his whole gig is that he'd go out to the coast and just harvest driftwood and then take it back to his garage and do fucking everything from like fairly elaborate bed frames and stuff like that to just your table. One year we had a trailer, U-Haul trailer full of quartz crystals from clusters and all kinds of cool shit from Charlie's mine in Mount Ida, Arkansas. And so we would take it, blow them out and all that kind of shit, and then mount it up under a piece of glass for like a little glass table or a coffee table thing, and then have driftwood legs supporting it. Really cool shit.
Sweet.
Like I wouldn't mind doing something like that again as a side hustle, to be perfectly honest with you. That shit was fun. But yeah, the Portland Farmers Market was the one time in my life that I've done something like that.
Yeah, because I was in Longview, Washington. I used to cross the Columbia River and just because Oregon, no sales tax. That was a big one for me, especially on tobacco.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it was a little hectic back then, but not like Portland's always been kind of wild.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of wild. It wasn't. We've got fentanyl zombies and the feds dressed up like Antifa versus the feds dressed up like Proud Boys all over the place. Although I guess according to Sam Tripoli, they drove around Portland like constantly trying to find a fucking riot or something in the middle of all of that shit. And it was, they found like one little, park square where people were popping off. And it wasn't even as bad as they were saying, but holy fuck, dude, Oregon's had some crazy laws. They've driven out a lot of people. They went COVID crazy. Now they're gonna, I guess, put people in sleep masks and give them mushrooms. Oregon voters approved the Oregon Psilocybin Services Act in 2020 initiative, which has since been codified into Oregon law. It's the first U.S. state to legalize and regulate psilocybin and license centers to provide psilocybin services. Colorado voters approved a referendum to legalize psilocybin for medical use last year. State legislature is reportedly finalizing legislation to set up the industry. Psilocybin, classic psychedelic, sure. Illegal under the Controlled Substances Act. We've had a resurgence. It's an effective treatment for a wide range of mental health problems. Right. This is what has me like all sorts of heated. And when I actually finally fucking ever get a chance to, it's one of the things that I'm writing a book on. But the resurgence of clinical trials involving psilocybin in the 21st century has produced promising results concerning the treatment of addiction, depression, and end-of-life mood disorders. According to analysis, psilocybin-assisted therapy, which noted psilocybin is at least as effective as SSRI drugs for treating depression and is surprisingly effective in the treatment of addiction, which is notoriously difficult to treat. So here's the rub. You spent 50, 60 years pumping all kinds of brains full of rewiring inducing SSRIs. You got people so mushed up and malleable that they were going to choose between a serial murderer and a World Wrestling Hall of Famer for president in 2016. And they thought that both of those people were good choices. Hillary Clinton's a serial killer. I don't really know a better way to. Nobody has 60 fucking friends that commit suicide. or die mysteriously? Nobody. Anyway, so they scrambled everybody's brains. In comes people like Peter Thiel and a number of other venture capitalists who have long stated more or less world domination and complete and total population control objectives, who have tons of money into psychedelic research companies and psychedelic companies as treatment for all of these things. What they're also doing is they're synthesizing the products, totally removing the elements that like make you trip and give you the actual introspection and just kind of leave you in this highly suggestible state.
Yeah, I wrote. So DARPA came out with something. I think it was called Focused Pharma. It was a research program where they wanted. Yeah, I wrote a story about that a couple years ago. They wanted all the effects, but without the tripping. And so, and I was like, how does that? I can, but then I also talked with some of those startup founders. I can't remember the companies now, but how they were talking about. Well, yeah, this can actually be good. Without the tripping, this can be good for this kind of mental thing, or like. And I was still kind of, I don't know, just from experiencing, many mushroom trips and psychedelic trips that I don't, because that journey kind of thing was kind of part of the reward, like the reward of it, and that, and even the hallucinations, the visuals or whatever. I'm still kind of, but looking back, the information I have now, it's kind of like, I don't know which way to go on that. But yeah, because in the mushrooms, like you can separate the psilocybin, the psilocin, the baeocystin, and other things. So it's such a weird thing, and then create compounds out of that, as you said. But I don't know what those effects, like how good that is for spiritual healing. Is that just a physical healing? Is that a mental healing? Is it combine all three, or is that just achieve one goal or something? Does it fix one thing but hurt another? Like if you separate the thing from the whole, does it really have the same power? I don't know. Does it need to be combined with all the rest of them as nature had it, or I don't know. But you could say the same thing about any drug, like Tylenol or something like that, I guess. Came from other plants and things, and yeah.
Well, and I mean, they found out that over the course of many years of studies that aspirin, and if you take too much of it, can kill you.
Oh yeah, anything. Yeah.
But the white willow bark, where it's derived from, not so much. So this is breaking, and then I'll thank the producers and get out of here. But both Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson, since we've been on air, no longer employed.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tucker Carlson leaves Fox News. Fox News Media and Tucker Carlson have agreed to part ways. We thank him for his service to the network as a host, and prior to that as a contributor. Mr. Carlson's last program was Friday, April 21st. Tucker apparently on Friday said, "We'll see you on Monday." According to rumor, I guess, is part of the Dominion voting machine defamation lawsuit that they launched against Fox News. So I guess conditional to that was the axing of Tucker Carlson.
Well, as you said, that's breaking. Yes, I mean that could be one explanation. But yeah, I'm going to be following this definitely.
And then also Don Lemon out of the game. So I guess we all look forward to ignoring Don Lemon's upcoming podcast.
Or he'll go the Brian Stelter route and be some kind of fellow somewhere and try to feel important.
Oh, they'll give him a nice teaching gig.
Oh,
that's what they'll do. He'll be a Harvard media fellow.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. That's crazy. Tucker Carlson getting the axe. Well, okay, so let me throw this out at you. And this is something that I think I've talked about on the show before, but the deliberate fracturing further fracturing and fragmenting of what was kind of a pretty cohesive right-wing media bubble, conservative media bubble. And using that as just another further divisionary tactic, to where when there was that whole little dust up a while back where Steven Crowder left, and disclosed some contract shit and all that kind of stuff. And now you've got people who had to pick between like Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder and all of the little, satellite media outlets that are around that, content creators. There's like a Glenn Beck camp, a Steve Bannon camp, a Tucker Carlson. So if they're all going to fragment and they're all going to start their own media companies, which Tucker already has one, then if you're not getting your CNN money, you're going to be pushing a subscription-based service to your other outlet 100% of the time. Well, now you're actually pulling resources out of what was, a more, I guess, unified media front. And it's going to make people pick teams. It's going to make, the Tucker Carlson will 100% be like recruiting people to become part of whatever next media network he's going to launch, to be in direct competition with Fox now.
Yeah. Well, I like the diversity of ideas. Like me personally, I like the behind it, like this. Well, it's more kind of almost a, as you said, breaking up, but it's almost decentralization of this. But it's this one, right wing kind of media. But it's so for me, it'd be interesting just to see. Okay, so now these are all separate. What does this person have to say? What does this person have to say? What does this person have to say? It's not just one unified message coming from Pfizer, So
well, that's true. That's true. It to that point.
But you are right about having camps and like people going all in on one or the other, and then almost that can create infighting and.
But I mean, to that point, you gotta wonder, and then I really will get out of here. You gotta wonder if Tucker regrets this.
I trust you so much.
Forget the morning time.
You're the first bug chef I've ever met. I'm just going to go ahead and do it.
Thank you. Yeah, bug appetit.
No, it's not bad at all. It's actually pretty good. Can it roughly? I'm not going to hold you to it, but how many crickets per burger would you say?
Well, in this burger, we have it's mostly the powder that I use, and each one has probably like about 1 tablespoon, which is 1 to 2 tablespoons of cricket powder.
And how many crickets does that represent?
That I'd have to get back to you on. I don't know exactly how many.
And I assume they're humanely killed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to ask for details on that. Okay, Chef Yoon, if anybody can sell this country on bugs, it's you. And we're grateful that you took the time to show us our future.
No. He takes one bite. Oh, that's pretty good. Puts it down, takes a drink. I saw. I love the Seattle Mariners baseball. They did that at the stadium last year. I was watching a broadcast, and they had like chili crickets or whatever with lime, and the announcers were trying them out and stuff like that. And they're like, "Oh, these bugs are so great," and stuff like, "Yeah." And he takes one bite. He's like, "No, can't do this. Oh, they said like it's good, but it's like, just need some more water. Just need some more water." It's like, no.
Well, Tim, thanks so much for hanging out, for like going extra innings and all that kind of shit. I really do appreciate it, man. Please let everybody know where they can keep up with your work, how they can support it, all that kind of good stuff, man. Thanks, and come back on, man.
Dude, I had a blast, Steve. Thanks a whole lot. Yeah. So the Sociable, which is sociable.co, that's the website where I write on, and truthtalk.uk. And then also find me on Twitter, Getter, and Gab, just my name, at Tim Hinchcliffe. It is Tim Hinchcliffe without that extra C, so it's not a hint. But no worries about that.
My bad.
Yeah, no worries about it at all. Yeah, at Tim Hinchcliffe.
God, I'm a fucking asshole. I apologize. Tell me that shit beforehand.
No, it's my whole life. Well, it happened. No. It's always been like that for my whole life. So yeah, and then there are Hinchcliffes out there too. So
yeah. I've been walking around with Poikonen as a last name for 45 years, so I do have empathy for this. I do.
It's all good.
Had manglings of it. I apologize, but thank you very much, man. I really
pleasure.
do.
I've had a great time, and I always enjoyed. I started watching your shows 2 years ago, and I've just been loving them ever since. Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it. I do. And it's fucking. I dig your work. I'm glad I got a chance to get you on, and been meaning to for a while. It's just get caught up in shit and trying to make a point to have different guests on going forward, or at least mix it up a lot more. So thank you for that. Tomorrow, you guys, Forest Mommy will be in the house talking shit. Boy, she's been getting herself in some trouble lately. That'll be fun. Pretty sure Chris is rained out on Wednesday. I think Metzger's coming back through too. Tess is going to be on Friday, and I can't remember who or if I have for Thursday. But yeah, it's going to be a fantastic week. I'm going to be on the Critical Hour later today. That'll tape soon and air at, I think, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. I don't think it's a Union of the Unwanted Day. I think we had one last week. I think so. I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah. And it looks like I actually got my Proton Mail account back. So that's helpful. But yeah. And if Whitney Webb is over her pneumonia, she'll be in. But if not, she'll be on next week. And then, yeah, let's take some producers and roll up on out of here. Y'all, it's a value for value gig that we do here. And we thank each and every one of you for pulling up and being a part of the whole thing. If you're not familiar with the value for value system, it works like this. Every time you see the show, it's going to come to you for free, Monday through Friday, 7 to 10 Pacific. There's no paywall for any of it. There's no, you have to, give us money for extra content thing. None of that. There's no advertising, no sponsors. It's, if you are watching, you see value in the show, whatever that is, whatever that means to you, however you choose to express it, send it this way. And that's what allows us to keep doing the thing. It does work. There's all kinds of things that you can do to help out. There's a couple of things that we definitely need help with. That's time, talent, and treasure. Time and talent, because stretched pretty thin, don't have the available hours or resources to do the stuff that needs to get done, let alone the stuff that we would like to do. You can help out on that. amwakeup at protonmail.com. If you have clips, if you're someone who just sitting around like, oh, that's fucking funny. ShellyOlmstead, OLMSTEAD at gmail.com. She's doing clip channels for us and they kick ass. And I guess Odyssey is being nicest to her. So I'm going to get all of the links together for that and put them in the description, which is, something I should have done last week. And make sure they're in there. Also in the description, all of the direct donate links, which are absolutely crucial and critical. And I do have some people to thank on that end. It came in over the weekend and a little bit ago. Let's see. Robin Pinato, Suzanne Murphy, Kent Woods. Thank you very much, you guys. And I think there was something over here. This will eventually get done like spreadsheet and no agenda style. Oh, yes. Yeah. Andy, Paul Martinez, and Robert Manel. Thank you very much, you guys. You rock. Merch store. This hat, a bunch of cool shirts and a bunch of other cool stuff. Big Frog, shout out to those guys. That link's in the description. There's a link to the Rebels for a Cause event with a promo code that you can enter in to save yourself some money. And that is an affiliate link. So we do get a tiny little kickback off of it. So it does help support the show. And then there were a couple of super rays. And then I did see over on the Rumbles, Vicky Lynn, thank you very much. And Wake Up and Guys, helping to expose the clowns in clown world. Keep us all looking at things behind the curtain. Always the best way to start the week. Thank you very much. Ivy Cat says, I hope you get some decent weed soon. Me too. Me too. This is now the in perpetuity. I will always and only be smoking terrible weed until the producers see through it in their heart to help me get better weed. Fucking no. I'm just talking shit. 3-Court Grifter. I haven't seen you in a minute. Good morning. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Tom Hutchison. Has anyone actually ever identified a coronavirus, or is insisting coronavirus did it the 2020s version of what Sam Harris and Christopher Hitchens would have derisively critiqued a decade ago as God did it? Interesting. Good point. No, to the best of my knowledge, no one has ever isolated or shown us an actual coronavirus. No. Sean McKernan, appreciate you. Dutch and Ease caught the dew beams on NOAA satellite imagery. Okay. Dutch Sense. Okay. His channel's on YouTube. Interview him. Okay. DOD responded with some blame on Russia. I like chemtrails, tree theory. Steve, it's not an either or. Okay. Dry trees lit by a match or microwave beam. Okay. There was a whole thing about microwave beams that I had in the doc I didn't get to. Stan Harding, thank you very much. And Stephen Timmons, appreciate you guys all. You fucking rock. Sociable.co and Truth Talk, that's .ca, right? Or no?
.uk.
UK. Okay, truthtalk.uk. My bad. Want to get that right. Yeah, see you guys soon. You fucking rock. Good luck to us all.